everyone, it's Michelle from the Colorado Wolf and Wildlife Center, and today I'm hanging out with Luna. She is of course one of our two wolf dogs. Katniss is the other wolf dog that we have here. Katniss and Kenai, just to give you guys an update, they are doing fantastic. They absolutely adore each other. After Kenai had been alone for so long, Katniss was a perfect addition for our center and for Kenai. So today I have something that you've probably already seen on our socials, but we want to talk a little bit about what U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service just told Colorado Parks and Wildlife. And essentially that is a cease and desist to bringing wolves in from Canada. Now, we're going to go back for a moment. I'm going to take a little pause on that because I want to go back to 1995 and 1996. So in 1995 and 1996, we reintroduced wolves from Alberta and British Columbia into Yellowstone National Park. So this is not the first time wolves from Canada have been brought into the lower 48 states as part of a reintroduction program. So we're going to rewind back to 1979. In 1979, biologists in Glacier National Park captured and collared the first gray wolf in the area, and then she ended up reproducing several years in a row and having pups, and then we ended up collaring those puppies, we being just biologists, collaring those puppies, and they started tracking those wolves to areas of Alberta and British Columbia. So there's always been this genetic interchange between wolves in the lower 48 states and Canada because there is no barrier. Wolves don't recognize political boundaries at all. They're the same exact subspecies that we already had here. And so what we ended up doing is U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service went out, captured a total of 41 wolves to bring into the lower 48 states for reintroductions into Yellowstone National Park, and then along with some other reintroductions that took place in the Frank Church Wilderness in central Idaho. Going back to January of this year, Colorado Parks and Wildlife did strike a partnership with the British Columbian Wildlife Services to bring in 15 wolves from Canada to Colorado as part of the reintroduction program. Again, these are already the same wolves that we had here in Colorado because the wolves that were originally brought to the United States in 1995 and 1996 were already from the same places in British Columbia. So we struck that deal, brought in our 15 gray wolves, and released them in Colorado, Pitkin County and Eagle County. So we did release those 15 wolves, and we were very successful with that because now we have 4 wolf packs in Colorado. Now, unfortunately, with the current administration, Brian Nesvik was chosen to be the head of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. For those of you who don't know who Brian Nesvik is, he used to be the head of the Wyoming Game and Fish. He was the same person that had overseen the Cody Roberts incident. If you don't remember what that was, it's when early last year, a person, Cody Roberts, took a snowmobile, chased down a wolf puppy, ran her over multiple times, breaking her bones, and then he duct taped her mouth shut, and he ended up bringing her to his local bar and parading her around town. So what ended up happening is, unfortunately, because Brian Nesvik does not like wolves, they didn't put any kind of formal punishment on this, even though it is animal cruelty. Now, thankfully, with some changes lately, Cody Roberts is going to be facing animal cruelty charges. And I'm bringing up the Cody Roberts incident from last year is because Brian Nesvik was head of the Wyoming Fish and Game during that time, and he didn't see anything wrong with the way Roberts treated that poor wolf. So unfortunately, he is already somebody who doesn't have any respect for our wildlife, especially not wolves. And unfortunately, what he ended up doing as head of U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is saying that Colorado Parks and Wildlife was not following the 10J rule when they reintroduced wolves from British Columbia. However, the 10J rule has nothing to do with sourcing wolves. In fact, the only thing that the 10J rule really does is outline how wolves are managed after reintroduction. Now, I do also want to mention Colorado's wolf reintroduction has taken place under the guidance of U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service this entire time. So they oversaw all the captures in British Columbia last year, and they didn't have any issue with it then. They shouldn't have any issue with it now. So, of course, Colorado would prefer to have wolves from the lower 48 states just to help save costs and other things like that. But there's no biological difference between the wolves that are already down here and the wolves in British Columbia and Alberta. However, because again, there's a lot of political pressure, those states north of us, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, they have all pretty much decided not to assist with Colorado's wolf reintroduction program. And even some of those sovereign nations, such as the Colville tribe, they also declined to help us with the wolf reintroduction, even though they initially signed an agreement back in 2024 to help us with the wolf capture in 2025, earlier this year. So of course, British Columbia has lots and lots of wolves. Again, the same type of wolf that we already have here, already the same type of wolf that was reintroduced into Yellowstone in 1995. There's no biological difference. They all hunt the same thing. They all live in packs. So hopefully with your voice, we can help change this. I'm going to include a link down below in the description, but we also have a QR code that you can follow, which will help us make our voices heard to try and get this overturned so that Colorado can continue sourcing wolves in British Columbia. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate your help with this, and we hope to see you again next week, and hopefully we'll get to see some of those more additional wolves coming from British Columbia later this year or early next year.